G'day everyone, I am the man called Kemosabe, the man with a plan from the land down under, and this is my review of The Lost Pages by the Diaz brothers, Brandon and Phillip Diaz. These guys are proven creators and rising stars in the CG and indie comic scene, with each book outselling their last. Their profits go up, but so do the number of backers that turn up to support their books. Phil and I bonded over our love of pre-Golden Age Mystery Man and elaborate, stylish, oversized sideburns, and he sent me a digital copy of The Lost Pages to read. Frankly, I was not expecting this level of quality from creators so new to the scene. This book is guaranteed a place on the top 10 books of 2021 list as we approach the year's end. I can't conceive that there will be 10 more books of a higher quality than this forcing it out of the running. This is one of, if not the best book CG has put out to date. It's 60 pages, but it feels longer. With so many different stories woven into one longer narrative, the creators have done an exceptional job orienting the reader as soon as possible so as to not use too much space on exposition. These characters have only a few pages each to make an impact on you, to be memorable and to make you want to read more. This taster-style book is a brilliant idea, difficult to pull off correctly, but if done well, pays dividends for some time to come. The first story is The Silhouette, sure to be many readers' favourite character, and the focus of The Lost Pages issue 2. He is a living shadow, a night-bound gun-wielding vigilante immune to mortal weapons, cursed to walk the streets of a damned city looking for evildoers to punish. This tale is punctuated by the thematically sound conceit of flickering streetlights. Lights on, lights off. Whenever a dark deed is about to occur, the panel blacks out. Lights off. It's clipped, it's clever, and it's punchy as hell. A great balance to the Silhouette's deep introspective thoughts. Where there is light, there must be shadow, and in the darkness, evil deeds are done. Is the Silhouette himself evil? For he visits evil upon criminals at night? He himself doesn't know his origins, why he was given the second chance at life. The narration-heavy style is pure Frank Miller, Sin City, Chandler's Milo with a supernatural twist. The Silhouette gives us his take on the city, on mankind and the nature of good and evil. He waxes lyrical about his role in it. He saves a woman from an attack, killing the attacker brutally. She flees and the Silhouette thinks that if he manages to save just one life, if she is the only innocent in the whole city, then his nightly walks among the worst of humanity isn't wasted, isn't for nothing. The art on this story is excellent, high contrast, masterful blacks and whites, and the paneling is simply incredible. Such a variety of camera angles, so many different ways to depict what is essentially 6 pages of walking and thinking through a city in a 13-page story. Maxi Dallo is credited with the art on The Silhouette. This guy knows what he's doing. He's a skilled storyteller and I hope to see more from him in the future, especially if it's high contrast black and white art like this. The next story shifts gears dramatically. After a short interlude on the streets where the homeless and the street people converse, mentioning the events that we just saw, a criminal getting his heart torn from his chest, a hobo offers to tell another story, a story of the sea. We dive into a pirate-themed story, full colour with art by John Joseph Ball, as full of clamouring detail as The Silhouette was spare and cold and contrasted. This is a significant shift in the narrative, a risky one, but the Diaz brothers managed to execute it. This is the story of Wildcard, the mystic character Phil Diaz played during Smiling Bandito's live-streamed RPG sessions. This story is told through lyrics, poetry that tell the tale of Wildcard losing his ship to a siren attack and being left adrift on debris, somewhere between living and dead. The language suits the era and the style of writing. It's not easy to make something rhyme that sounds good and sticks to a set number of syllables. The language is evocative of the era. The old-fashioned way of speaking and presenting information thrusts you back in time with shades of Alan Moore's Black Freighter, and the idea that the story has more meaning than just what is being shown on the page. The captain of a ship might be lured by the siren song and run his vessel aground, forfeiting his life. But what is your siren? What song lures you to death? Be it professional, spiritual, or physical death. What is it that you can't ignore nor resist? Wildcard's story asks us these self-same questions. I'd like to read a couple of pages for you just so you can appreciate the significant shift in writing style we experience from one story to the next. Ride, rhythm to the orchestra. To sticks a guide. Crash to the land, the wood and the sand. Bass blue. Bellow the bow. Snare to the air and grasping hands. Ride the waves to a blissful sound, then done, as the beat fades, the waves all graves, then none. Next we take a large step forward in time back to the streets of the city and the hobo telling stories. Each part of the book adds to the larger narrative, creating a frantic kind of story that reveals to you the broadness of the worlds being created by the Diaz brothers. The hobo tells his growing crowd of listeners that the Lost Pages are eternal, new stories being written and added to it even as they speak. He tells them another tale, this one a surreal Max-like story of a girl who doesn't fit in, who creates a monstrous imaginary friend who returns to aid her in her adult years when she needs him most, proving he is real and has incredible power. As she descends into madness, as her life choices spiral her further into depression, as her inner demons grow, so too does her imaginary friend shrink and vanish. When she hits rock bottom, she knows she has to change or die. She joins a gym, gets fit, gets strong, maybe hoping the outside strength will cause the inner strength to align. When her girlfriend is murdered, she blacks out, and Krim, her imaginary friend from her childhood, takes over. The killer is found beaten to death in a nearby alley, and while showering, I suspect the Diaz brothers are fans of muscular women. This story isn't a cheesecake story, but it's definitely got some fan service elements. Krim manifests and reveals to Taz that he is actually real, that he is powerful, mirroring her state of mind and body. When she was weak and depressed, Krim shrank into a tiny creature, one she couldn't hear. As she grew more powerful and healthy, so did Krim, and he was able to fight back against the literal demons living in Taz's head. Now he's a massively muscled monster with superhuman strength and resistance to injury. Krim convinces Taz to enter an MMA-style cage fight to show how powerful they've become. As she fights, Krim manifests around her, adding power to her punches and allowing her to dominate the fight. With the new power and perspective, the story ends with Taz needing a new purpose, and her heroic costume leaves little doubt that she will soon take to the streets to fight crime and protect those who can't protect themselves. This story is a very raw look at mental health issues, depression, bulimia, addiction, and the power of being an active part of the human race. The parallels between Krim and Taz leave us wondering, did Krim get stronger because Taz did, or was it the other way around? Was it the years of fighting her demons in her head that allowed Krim to grow in strength and in turn gave Taz the mental strength to make a significant physical change in her life, giving her the strength to choose to live life? While couched in a gonzo, hyper-detailed and bombastic art style full of surreal demons and street art style, the issues addressed in this story are very real, very relevant, and leads me to believe that in some way the Diaz brothers are familiar with the effects of poor mental health on one's self-efficacy. These guys are creating some really vulnerable, hard-on-their-sleeve type storytelling with Crimstone, and it strikes true. It's very authentic, very engaging, and very much reminiscent of The Max, and other surreal stories that deal with the mental health and alternate worlds that reflect the character's state of mind. With Crimstone, the Diaz brothers are touching on a genre of comic that is rarely utilised. Before this, I might have believed that Sam Keith said everything there is to say about this type of thing, but the Diaz brothers surprised me with something authentic, relevant, and very much right now, very 21st century. It's probably the parallels in this story that most affected me of all the Lost Pages. At the end of Crimstone, the hobo warns that none others should ever read from the Lost Pages. Of course, immediately after that, some criminals try to steal the book for themselves. The hobo wakes and appears behind them in his best Batman impersonation, telling them he will recount the tale of one who started it all, the Masked One. The final story from the Lost Pages is that of the Masquerade, a stage star who dons a theatrical costume and thwarts crime while taunting them in rhyming couplets. The art on this story is very solid, very bold and high colour, referencing the comics of the era, simpler tales of good and evil. The cover of this tale evokes the classic art and style of the Golden Age, elements of Art Deco, advertising fonts, and classic pulp novel covers in painted gouache. This tale introduces us to the Masquerade, his civilian identity, his love interest, and his quest to fight crime. It's a fantastic primer for becoming familiar with the character, and has all the classic hallmarks of a good origin story. Like the Shadow, the Masquerade is a larger-than-life character, superhuman and supernatural in his ability to block bullets, descend from on high, and traverse the city as easily as you or I traverse a sidewalk. It's said the Masquerade can become anyone, but if that's a supernatural power or simply his exceptional prowess as an actor is soon revealed, as with a flick of his cape, the Masquerade is surrounded by stars of mystical power and reverts to his civilian identity. The Masquerade is tipped off to a crime by the Brown Gang, the same name as the gang that had Crimstone's girlfriend killed. There are callbacks and links between every story in the Lost Pages, hinting at the shared universe, the parallel timelines and worlds that exist in and out of the book. When the Masquerade goes to thwart the criminals at the newspaper press, we see him in action, blocking bullets with his sword, crashing unharmed through skylights, and, like the mystery men of old, the Masquerade has little qualms about killing his opponents. As he dispatches the last of the mobsters, he himself is stabbed, his throat cut, and that same magic that transformed him spills like blood from the wound, and with the final rhyme, the Masquerade dies. Impatient, one of the homeless men grabs the book from the hobo, claiming it must be worth some money. He reads directly from the book and discovers a truth that had been hinted at the entire time. The book contains everything, every story, because all of reality is just another story, and the vastness of it overwhelms the thief, transforming him into a massive demon that attacks. The hobo steps forward and draws a sword in a burst of flames, severing the demon in twain. When the hobo steps from the flame, he is revealed to be the Masquerade himself, made manifest in this modern world. The Lost Pages ends there with more questions than answers, a tour de force of storytelling, comic book conventions and genre-smashing action that you'll be thinking about for days afterwards. This book is a layered, deepest lore love letter to a half a dozen different comic book genres, seamlessly shifting gears from waxing classical lyrical prose to high-tension Sin City or the question-esque heavy narration. Furthermore, each of these stories is woven into a broader narrative, a narrator-centric, wise old man storyteller enlightening the uneducated on the true state of reality while laying the foundations for big things to come. In this one volume, the Diaz brothers cleverly introduced the audience to half a dozen of their flagship characters, but individually, with each of their characters allowed to make their own impact and have their own space to tell their own story. This is fast-paced MCU universe building, reverse JLA movie. Instead of jamming all the characters into one story and expecting the readers to cope with that, and instead of showcasing each character in their own book and waiting possibly for years before the payoff, the Diaz brothers have found a perfect midpoint, made all the more memorable because of how true to form each genre of story is. There's a pirate story, and it lets the reader know the Diaz boys know pirate stories. There's a supernatural crime noir that proves they know that genre. There's classical Golden Age mystery men fare, showcasing their love and an understanding of that type of fiction. Make no mistake, there are no missteps here. In a single book, these guys have proven they are long-running students of the comic book genre, with a deep knowledge, love and respect for what makes them great. This is a love letter for all comics of all sorts, a testament that the art form has an endless range, variety and relevance, as relevant now as they've ever been. I can't say for sure what the future of comics will look like. There are people in the industry, former pros or just people with their fingers on the pulse who are better at predicting that sort of thing than me. However, if you were to ask me what I want the future of comics to look like, I'd point to the Zaid brothers, and I'd point to the Lost Pages. Before I sign off, I want to add two things to this review. One is that I almost exclusively buy digitally. I normally only buy physical books that have my name credited in them. Are we buying a copy of the Lost Pages physically? It's that good and I want a real copy of it for myself. The second thing is that I was fortunate enough to read the script for the Lost Pages 2, and I can tell you right now it's even better than book 1. The mailing list is live right now, don't miss it. Go sign up and back it as soon as you can. You'll regret it if you don't own a copy of the Lost Pages 2. This brings us to the end of the review. I hope you found it useful. If you're an indie comic creator and you like your comic reviewed, hit me up on Twitter and we'll work something out. Thanks for watching, thanks for your time, and I hope to catch you on the next video. Take care of yourself and be good to each other.